thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come before this board, and I was just reflecting with Jeff. We can't believe that we're starting year 5. And I have shared the Creighton story in many ways. And one of the significant pieces of that was your decision as a board all those years ago to align your goals to the reform effort. And you were very courageous to do that, and you asked me some very strategic questions at the time of what do we do if and what happens when. And it was a pleasure to see your openness and your commitment and your direction toward this effort. And an overused phrase is the only thing that's constant is change. But you kept your eye on what we're all about, and that's the students in this district. And I'm very pleased to report a little bit of an update on year 4, which we've just finished, and then get into some of the work plan on year 5. And then I have a little bit of data to share with you, not achievement data, but trend data for you to take a look at. So I don't know, yeah, you can see this better up here. This is a slide. It's very comprehensive. It is a picture of the work of what's gone on in the district over the last 4 years. As you can see, it was a very complex effort. I was asked recently by the Ellis board, well, what are we seeing in the other districts that we're interested in, and one in particular that we're moving into, and how is it different than Creighton, and how can we get the same impact and commitment that we have seen in Creighton? And I guess the way to say that would be we had, you might not call it a perfect storm, but we certainly had a storm of events that required us to go in with a lot of interventions at the same time. And I thought this would be a good graphic for you to see how much has really taken place over the last 4 years. We started with a significant effort in standards and assessment and developing the work through the district curriculum committee and moving the reform into a true systemic model where all of these interventions were interrelated and still are. So I'm not going to get into the details. You've heard certainly T4S, ELA, RTI, LAPDS, but it gives you a good overview of just how broad this effort has been. In year 4, we really focused on building capacity. We've been focusing on that every year, but we're seeing true movement within the district, and I'll detail that in a minute. This has been our overarching focus to move to full sustainability. Not that sustainability is something that you meet and check off, but that you are in readiness to continue the work and move in a positive direction. The district has been demonstrating sustainability beyond the interventions. And by that we mean we see innovative movement in the district on the part of leadership and the board of, oh, well, if we did this, then we ought to put this into place, and this connects. And so it isn't that we just do what's in the work plan, but the district has built their capacity to go beyond and make those, fill in those other pieces as necessary and needed as we go along. And that way, they're building that drive and thrive over that long term. The leadership structures have been improved upon, increasing internal and external communications, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the program work. And it has a lot to do with what's been happening in the sustainability visits that we do monthly at the schools. Accountability for all stakeholders continues to increase. And I would say that this continues to be a very important piece as you move forward into the Common Core standards. We are going to be implementing all over the country with standards that are going to be at a level of rigor that we've not seen before. And the good news about the sustainability building and capacity building in Creighton is that that's already being worked on. And it's stunning to me that there are numerous places where they haven't gotten to that yet. So we'll talk a bit more about that. And then refinement of district and school leadership responsibilities. It really means that we're handing over, we're passing the torch. The first year we came, an example would be the first year we came into the district, we meaning WestEd, did all of the visits to the classrooms. Through the transition of 4 years, those monitoring visits, that the sweeps that are done in the fall, that's all done by staff within the district now. So all of those pieces have moved into being sustained within the district. I'm going a little fast because there's a lot, so if I don't make something clear, please stop me. The other piece that's been a significant part of the work all the way through, but particularly in year 4, has been in the area of instruction. We were concerned a year ago about the spontaneity and automaticity of the delivery of lessons in classrooms because it looked canned to us. It was like a check-off list for wanting to get the points on the T4S form, and I would, yes.
Phyllis, if I can just interrupt, you're talking about this most recent year, correct? Or is that what you're...
in year 3.
Oh, in year 3, okay.
We saw that, and so in year 4 we worked on that, and I think that what we're seeing now and what we're hearing from staff is that teachers are less likely to stop and the lesson when people walk in a room and start ticking off, well, let me recite the objective, etc. The lessons are flowing and it looks more comfortable, and the delivery looks more normal. Principals have experienced a personalized approach to coaching through cadres, and I know that Dr. Boyle has also been working with them rather than individually, working in cadres on topics of concern to specific areas within the district or what comes out of the sustainability visits as well. They have more time to interact in those sessions, and also the structure of the sustainability visits that we come in and do with Charlotte and Jim are really based on a review of data, and it's a status check. Where are you? Where are you headed? And how's your data looking? And then taking the information from those visits to the Thursday meeting of leadership and inviting the creative ideas that are coming out of the schools and having those administrators share those ideas that we see that are impacting the growth at their schools, and talking about the challenges as well. There's been program support for instruction, curriculum and assessment, and designing the specific needs of each school. And by that, we mean that the number of visits from the WestEd coaching staff is determined by the needs of the school. So that, I'll use an example, a new principal will get 12 visits a year, whereas a school that is sustaining and moving forward and has had a seasoned principal there may only get 4. That doesn't mean there's no contact, it means that those are on-site visits, but there may still be phone calls, etc. Successful piloting of the curriculum for Common Core, we're ahead of the timeline in that area, and I'm pleased to state that. And there have been challenges within the curriculum department with staff and movement, and they have certainly picked up the gauntlet there and just, done the very best job that they could do. It's a lot of work to prepare for this. So as we move into the year 5 work plan of services, our focus is still on capacity building and sustainability. We're still going to be coming to the schools 6 times a year to continue to target successes and challenges for leadership discussion and in those leadership council meetings. The professional development plans are continuing to be viewed, but we're also looking at a lot of other strategic data that might be significant for a school. For example, if there have been issues with discipline, and there's an idea of something that's come out of one school that has really worked, that's something that is would be shared with the whole staff. School leadership, customizing the support. When we look at what schools need or will get assistance and how many visits, we look at, as I said, new leadership, student achievement data. We also look at other data, the benchmark data, besides the Ames data, but also what our WestEd coaches are telling us. And at a recent meeting, we went through this with our WestEd coaches to see, and we'll be sharing that with you very soon, Charlotte. And then what's coming from the schools? What are they telling us that their needs are, and what do we see with regard to their leadership team and pockets of success and pockets of challenges by grade level? So they might get 4 visits or 8 visits or 12 visits. That's how that little piece works. With program support, our highest priority this year, because our focus has been so heavy in the last 4 years on reading, and we certainly worked on math this year, we're still continuing to work on math instruction, and we'll be bringing in a WestEd team in a program called Math Pathways and Pitfalls to continue the work in a more a deeper way in math fluency, conceptual understanding, and problem solving. And Joe Sassone will be sharing with leadership in July at Leadership Institute of how that's going to look, and so that the teams have a clear understanding of really what that means. And then, of course, that's another model that we can customize to what the needs are that the data is showing here in the district. Teach for Success, we've really done a lot of talking about this piece at WestEd, and as we look at alignment with the PARC assessments, we hear it from the district, we hear it from Lynn Spiller, we've talked with, as we've looked at the direction that we're going to put our emphasis, we've listened to staff, and we've put them through some tasks of identifying areas, and we have a lot of work to do, we across the whole country, but we're worried about Creighton right now, having to do with what these assessments are going to look like. There will be just, the writing piece is huge, the justification piece is huge as children write their answers. So we're going to have to ratchet up even more so than this year the areas of rigor and the areas of functional writing. The English language learner, the ELA work is going to continue, but more to assist the district. The master plan, I don't know if they've seen that yet, Charlotte, the district master plan for ELL. That will be, we're going to continue to help monitor that and assist out of the ELA work rather than working specifically at schools. It will be at a district level. So as we go into the LAPDS, the refinement on core and benchmark, to get ready for 2014-15, one of the things that came out of sessions with the leadership team here is that we also need to help teachers with assistance of how to construct short answers, and extended responses. And that's got to be embedded in instruction and the checks and balances within the classroom in order to prepare students to do this comfortably as they have to do it in real-time assessments. The RTI, Response to Intervention, will continue their work in the refinement of Common Core standards for our special needs students, students with with disabilities, and also moving the intervention work in the positive behavior system, interventions for Tier 1 and align it to Tier 2 and keep that piece going as we work to emphasize academic interventions and successes for those students. So, I'm going to take a breath. That's a lot of overview. There's so much detail to this, as your leadership will attest, and there will be pieces that we're going to move on, and then we're going to say, well, that's not working so well. We'll put that aside and we'll do something that will make a difference. So this is the general overview plan. It's been also approved by the Ellis Board, and the funding's gone down a little bit from previous years because it is year 5. But the good news is they said we're not closing the door on Creighton if in year 6 there is still something that needs to happen. They're very willing to hear about that. So on this next slide, I just would like to show you that the trajectory has been very positive since we started in 2008. We want to keep the lines moving up, and I haven't seen all the data, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to talk about this year's data yet, but we're hoping to see that trend going. Having said that, it's getting harder. And the big bumps that you've seen early, you may not be seeing as we move along. When you first start, huge intervention, you shine the light on it, you get the biggest bump in the first 3 years. That's not to say that you shouldn't expect movement and improvement. Absolutely you should. So that's why we're talking about how can we get more for the effort that's going on, and are we really seeing rigorous teaching for all students in all classrooms? And that's a question mark that we have at this time. Here's one that I think is really important to also look at. Your scores in special ed and ELL. The ELL line is on top, and I think that's right, special ed on the green. And to go from 12% to 30, 16% to 37 is very, very good. Here's one that I think, I'm sorry, yes.
Do you have any information that would compare us to districts of similar, rather than comparing us to the state, comparing us to districts with similar demographics?
I do, but I don't have it with me. And I thought, should I include this in here, or is that too much?
I understand.
Let me tell you what we are going to do, because I want to take the credit for being so clever with these graphs, but I didn't do them. Dan Bugler did, and with his permission, they're right out of the evaluation that he's doing, which he will be presenting to this board, I would say probably early fall. And within that, he's done a comparison of all the surrounding districts. I think there are about 8 or 10 of them, and Creighton's data is just really, really good. And I apologize, I should have brought some of that, but I thought he should really share that data.
It's good to know you have it.
Yes. And I can actually get those slides to Charlotte for you to see, and then when he does present, you can ask him those questions of how he did the comparisons. I was really happy to see them as well. This one I think is particularly significant since we have that looming third grade, they must all read law. And if you look at the blue and green and put that together, what I'd like to focus on rather than the falls far below and the approaches is in 2007, the meets and exceeds was at 51% for third graders. And in 2011, it's at 70%. So that's good because I personally don't know how any district is going to find all of the classrooms they're going to need for students that may not make it past third grade. But your trend is extremely positive. On this last one, of course, having been at the Department of Ed and responsible for these labels at one time, and I apologize very much, I never liked the terms underperforming, performing. I personally, my bias is, I think the letter grades say more. It used to bother me when people had bonfires for performing schools when they were this close to being underperforming. So,
yeah.
But I would say to you that this year was when we share this in other states and other districts, that this district moved from underperforming, failing, to everyone performing in a year, and then you look at the district as a whole has a B 4 years later is just incredible. Now, we know there are lots of discussions about how these labels are put together and what they mean, and it gets very frustrating. And I do listen to Lynn every year, wring her hands over this because some of it makes no sense, right, Lynn? But it's what we live with. And when you look at the last row of what we see here, and some of these C's are very high C's. I wish we could do C pluses, but I'm not there anymore. So I think what I would say to you is this is so indicative of the just bone tiredness, hard, deep work that has gone on in this district, from leadership all the way through the grade levels in this district. It's not been easy. Everyone isn't happy, but if we ever depended on having to make everybody happy, we would never get there. So, but what I would say is, and I have to quote Jeff, because we were talking beforehand and we were talking about, I can't believe we're starting year 5, and he was remembering when we did action planning at the Hilton Gardens, and he said, quote, "This district is a different place than it was then." And I would say to you, congratulations, it is. There is significant work that has gone on, but there's a lot more we have to do. But we're on the right trajectory and the right path. And I just thank you very much for your willingness to be courageous leaders. You certainly have courageous leaders in the building and in your cabinet and in district office. And that's a piece of the partnership story that I keep saying to people, because that has to be there, and it has to be part of the work and the movement to get to where you've gone. It is imperative that a board supports this kind of work. It is just imperative. And there is such a disconnect across this state between board and district office in some of the schools at times. I think it's better than it's been before, but I also think that with the Common Core coming in, there are going to be struggles that we're not prepared for with respect to how the data is going to look the first couple of years. And I think I would just encourage you to align your goals all of the time with the student needs in the district. And you have great leaders in place here. And I just would like to take Charlotte and clone her and put her in other districts to tell the tale. So we are going to reprint a lot of WestEd materials in the division I'm in, and we're telling success stories, and there will be quotes in there from people within Creighton District. So I thank you very much. Can I answer any questions for you?
Phyllis, as a partnership, I'd like to thank you and WestEd and the Ellis Foundation. I know Robin was on the board prior when you came to this district, and as a board member prior, the teachers, the principals, the students, everyone tried very hard. But every September when Dr. Spiller would come with the numbers, I'd have my fingers crossed. And we'd be disappointed in some areas. And then y'all came and have had amazing results. My biggest worry was getting through your interview. I didn't want to mess it up the school district because I didn't know, I couldn't prepare. I didn't know what I needed to study.
We just wanted to know if you wanted us here.
I'm there, oh God, I hope I don't screw it up. But I know everyone has done a massive amount of hard work, but it's not in vain. It's starting to show. It's been showing, and it's fantastic. And people who said prior that our scores would be low due to the demographics of the students have been put down, and they're wrong. The kids can learn. They can learn fantastic. They can exceed other school districts that don't have our demographics. And you all proved it. And the teachers and the principals, and it's fantastic. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. That is the bias of low expectations. You know, that people think it can't happen. It's happening here, and it's happening elsewhere as well. And so I thank you for your courageous leadership. Anything else?
Does WestEd communicate the successes in districts like ours to the legislature? And I see that they don't always have a high expectations of schools, and they don't always understand what it takes to be successful in the school environment, you know, based on some of the decisions and legislation that they've passed. So I just kind of wondered if that was something that is on WestEd's radar.
Well,
do you have a role in it?
How funny you should mention that. I just had a conversation with Steve Mettenthal today. He probably would have been here tonight, but poor man just got back from Italy. But yeah, he's tired. We talked about that, and the good news is we had Dan Bugler and Joe Sassone and I had a very positive, informative meeting with Superintendent Huppenthal and one of his executive team members last week, and there are some things that he would like us to consider, and we're actually taking a look at maybe doing a further analysis of third grade scores based on what's happening in early instruction in K2. So that's all in the discussion. I would say that Dr. Boyle and Connie Whitty and Eric Dupin presented at an ADE conference last year. They're going to do it again this year, and that has shared a story in a significant way. I know that ADE is aware of it. Having spent 5 years there, if you can give me an idea on how to talk to legislators, I'm all for it. But it's really,
I love you, and I don't.
it's hard to. It is hard, but I also think that is, that's something we're working on. And the Ellis Foundation is also looking at a different way to get the story out across Arizona, and I think it'll be through Netta Shafir's group that she's with on communications, because it's that communication piece. Sometimes you're just not a hero in your own land, but the story's out there, and it's pretty significant. I think there are ways we just haven't had a focus on it, quite honestly. We've been a little busy.
Thank you.
Tiffany, I would say that I went to the legislature with Dr. Boyle and Dr. Wagner when we had to present the work that we've done to overcome some discrepancies in the audit. And part of the presentation was our achievement, and Senator Crandall actually asked, how did this work? And Dr. Boyle, very bravely told him, we didn't just, we worked hard, but and you cut our money, but through our partnership with WestEd and through the generosity of the Ellis Center, we were able to do this. So that was something I think that turned a couple heads at that meeting. That wasn't, of course, in front of the entire legislature, but important folks there.
Part of the thing that, part of the idea that the Ellis Board had is to bring other foundations alongside and do this kind of work. But what I have observed is that many foundations have their interest area, their slice that they want to work on, and so when you tell them how hard this is, it's hard to get that commitment. But there are a couple of foundations that are interested in coming alongside for certain slices of this, and we may do that through APTT, moving it into Camelback High School. So there are some examples here that may stretch further. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we have our movement here, I was looking at the MOU and I had a question for Dr. Boyle. Part of the MOU, Dr. Boyle, on the procedural agreements, it commits Creighton District to participate in the Arizona School Climate Survey every school year. Just wondering if we can make sure to get some data on that in a future meeting.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Move the governing board approve and ratify the fifth and final year of a 5-year project among the Ellis Center for Educational Excellence, WestEd and Creighton District, that commenced on June 17, 2008 through June 30th, 2013.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Our next item is under personnel, the approval of